Let's talk about the new film Apartment 7A, which is a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. This is a film that has been taking some time to get off the ground. Initially announced in 2008 and then ultimately fell through that same year. It didn't reach another point where it was being made until 2021 when they attached director Natalie Erika James, who actually directed a film that I really enjoy called Relic, which I think everybody should check out if they can. Now you have this film starring Julia Garner, in which she stars as Terry Giannoffrio, who is a character that is also at the beginning of Rosemary's Baby. And this basically is her story, how this all came to be, and a bit more background into the coven and the apartment complex that we know from Rosemary's Baby. Before we get into this spoiler-full talk, which I do have a spoiler-free review if you want to go check that out, I want to let you know to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 35,000 subscribers. About 3,000 to go for that. So let's get into Apartment 7A. So I watched this film at Fantastic Fest, and I will tell you, I was excited for this. Like I said, I am a huge fan of Natalie Erika James's Relic. I thought it's such a great horror, really balances well themes of family and sort of loss and all of that. And I won't get much more into that film. Check it out if you can. It is so well done. But Apartment 7A, I was kind of skeptical about it, just as I was with The First Omen, because The First Omen, of course, taking a classic like The Omen and doing a prequel for it, it can go one way or the other, right? Apartment 7A is doing the same, but this time with Rosemary's Baby, which I think if you put them into categories, I think Rosemary's Baby is more highly regarded than The Omen from the 70s. And so I think that there is a big shoe to fill here. And I think Natalie Erika James, for the most part, does a great job. She wrote the screenplay with Christian White and Skylar James, and the story was from Skylar James. So I think Natalie Erika James is really great when it comes to the whole look of the film. And I think Julia Garner, as well as an actress, really knocks it out of the park. For more of my review and all of that, go check that out. So this film basically is in 1965 New York City, where we follow Terry Giannoffrio as she's trying to become a dancer, famous, all of that. Ultimately, we see that she hurts her ankle, and then she's out for some months, then she's trying to get back on her feet, and she's not really getting off her feet, right? Like she's struggling a bit here and there. She ultimately rents an apartment from this couple who are Minnie and Roman Castevet, who basically say like, hey, take your time, you can sort of work on your craft here, all of that. And then this film kind of takes a Black Swan approach where she's like trying to make it into this dance group, and there's these girls that are seemingly not really like feeling her, and the dance instructor is a little bit creepy at the same time as well. Ultimately, we see that Terry gets drugged at one point and passes out. She has no clue what just happened, and this is pretty much when the coven took her in to get impregnated by Satan himself, because that's the whole thing that the coven wants to do, right? They want to impregnate a woman to give birth to the Antichrist. So for all of this time, they've been doing this where they lure these unsuspecting women and these couples in order to have a woman to be the vessel for the Antichrist, and they feel with Terry that's going to be it. Of course, Terry doesn't know this. She just thinks she got pregnant maybe from the director producer guy, and he's just like, you know what, our secret, whatever. She ultimately wants to have an abortion, however, and the couple, Minnie and Roman, say, don't do that, we'll take the baby, we've always wanted a child and we never were able to get one. We'll use our wealth, our connections to help you become a dancer in exchange for the baby once it's born. She accepts this, Terry, because she wants to be famous, she wants to be known, and so she decides to go forth with it until she realizes this might not be it. She tries to have an abortion, but then we see that a dark force does not allow her to have this abortion. The dark force kicks the person out who's trying to get the abortion on Terry, and Terry realizes that maybe she might just have to do something else more drastic. In the end, Terry decides that she's just going to go forth with this because the coven seem to be like, you know, there's nothing else you can do. You're going to have this baby and that's all there's to it. So she just pretends to be down with it, and she even says the Hail Satan at the end, and then throws herself out the window as we see a onlooking couple looking distraught about what just happened, and Minnie and Roman go up to them, and of course this is Rosemary and her husband from Rosemary's Baby. So we see that at the end they approach them, and of course if you've seen Rosemary's Baby, you know they pretend to not know what happened with Terry and all of that, and they just try to warm up to them as much as they can. So this film basically is just the story of Terry Giannoffrio and the events that took place right before Rosemary's Baby happened. So you just see all of that unfold. You get a little bit more background into the cult and the coven, but not much really like I thought you were going to get, because I was very curious how much exactly were they going to dive into that, into the cult and that. But it didn't really go as deep as I thought, but I still think that the film does explore some interesting aspects with female autonomy as well as the patriarchy and things like that. Reproductive rights, of course, being a huge one here. And I think it's such a solid story when it comes to that. I think the imagery as well is great, but I just think the pacing was a bit off. I think that the film really struggled with figuring out how it wanted to present itself, what sides of Terry's life did it want to show. And, I think it definitely was a fault in the story, but I think that visually it does have some interesting shots. Gave me some Suspiria vibes throughout some of the dance scenes as well. But Julia Garner is amazing in this performance, and I really have to give it to her. And I think Natalie Erika James framed some of these shots very well. But basically, that is the ending of Rosemary. That is the ending of Apartment 7A. The cult, the coven, just lured in Terry. They thought she would be a great vessel. They wanted to use sort of her hunger for fame, for the glitz and the glamour in order to give her a deal she basically couldn't refuse with the devil in order to birth his child, the Antichrist. They thought that they had it all under control, but of course, Terry decided that this is not the way to do it. She didn't want to be the one that spawned Satan's child, so that's why she decided to just jump off and end it right there. And of course, the Minnie and Roman cult members saw an opportunity by seeing how distraught Rosemary was at the end and approached her, and then we kick off the events of Rosemary's Baby. So they basically lure these very unsuspecting and women that are at their lowest in order to sort of get under their skin and get their trust and become sort of like this figure that is like comforting and will protect them, but at the end of the day, they're just using them as vessels in order to bring forth the Antichrist. And like I said, it's sort of similar to the first Omen in a way, but I feel like the first Omen took a bit more chances and was a little bit more daring in those aspects of showcasing something new, whereas Apartment 7A kept it pretty safe for the most part. But I still enjoyed some aspects of it, and I'm excited to see everybody involved here in future projects. But let me know what you think about Apartment 7A and its ending, and if you've watched Rosemary's Baby. I do want to watch Rosemary's Baby again. I haven't watched it in years, and you'll probably have a review from me pretty soon, especially with spooky season coming right around the corner. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Follow me for more on things you love. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.